all the disciples deserted him. Hello everyone, my name is Angel Sandoval. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you're new to my channel, I make these videos weekly in hopes that they encourage you. Guys, I would like to share with you something that the Lord shared with me. We're going to talk about Matthew 26 today, and this is super important. Now, we all know the story where Jesus has the Last Supper with his disciples and where he's telling them he's about to be crucified. We're going to dive in and really just chew some meat right now on this story. Matthew 26 verses 33, Peter declared, "If anyone deserts you, I won't. Not me. I would never desert you, Lord." And Jesus in verses 34 says, "The truth is, this very night, Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times before the rooster crows." I can almost imagine Jesus looking at Peter in the eyes, seeing this sincerity in his heart. I think he meant it, but Jesus knew what Peter was not going to be able to handle. And he puts his hand on Peter's shoulder and looks at him and says, "Peter, I know you mean well, but even you're going to deny me. In fact, 3 times before the rooster crows." Peter says, "I would die first before that happens." And he insisted, "Lord, there is no way. I would die for you." And all the other disciples said the same thing. "Oh no, there's no way, Lord. We would go to war for you. We'll die for you." Then Jesus brought them to the Garden of Gethsemane and told them to sit down and wait. He went on ahead to pray. Verse 37 says, he took Peter with him and Zebedee's 2 sons, James and John, and began to be filled with anguish and despair. How many of you have been filled with anguish and despair? Jesus was God in a human form and felt every emotion that you and I feel. He gets depression. He gets anxiety. He gets loneliness. He gets mistakes and regrets, what you go through. If you don't think he gets it, he gets it because he felt it. He had anxiety. For those of you that struggle with anxiety, Jesus had so much anxiety this night that he sweated and prayed so hard that he sweated drops of blood, guys. That's deep. I really want us to wrap our head around what's going on right now. Then he told him, "My soul," this is Jesus saying this, listen, "my soul is crushed with horror and sadness to the point of death." Do you hear that, guys? To the point of death. Stay awake with me. All he asked them was to stay awake with me. 39, he went forward a little while and fell on his face downward to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it's possible, let this cup be taken away from me, but I want your will, not mine." Then he returned to the 3 disciples and found them asleep. "Peter," he called out, "couldn't you stay awake with me, even for a little bit?" 41, "Now keep alert," he tells them, "and pray, because it's about to go down. Otherwise, temptation will overpower you, for the spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." Verse 42, again he left them and prayed, "My Father, if this cup cannot go away until I drink it, your will be done." He asked a second time. Then he returned to them again and found them all sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy. So he went back to prayer a third time, saying the same thing again. Now think about this for a second. He's going back and forth, Jesus. He's anxious, going back and forth. The Son of God, anxious, sweating drops of blood. You tell me he's not in despair to the point of death? That was read to you in the Word. I'm not making this up. This is coming out of the Word. He was in anguish. Then he came to his disciples and said, "Sleep now and take your rest." But no, there's a big but no in there. "I'm betrayed now in the hands of evil men. Let's get up. Let's get going. Here comes the man who's betraying me." At that very moment, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived with a great crowd and with swords sent by the Jewish leaders. Judas told them, "Arrest the man that I greet." That's the guy, the one I hugged. So think about this for a second. These soldiers and all these people with clubs and all these people that came to arrest Jesus, they had no idea who he was. They were just there to do one thing: arrest this man. And Judas had to tell them. You didn't catch that, right? Unbelievers arrested Jesus. Not even people that kind of heard him in the streets. These were people that had no idea who he was. Judas had to point him out. Hey, it's the guy that I hug, all right? He's the guy. Think about that. After a moment while he was speaking, Judas of the 12 arrived with a great crowd and a multitude, armed with swords, clubs sent by the Jewish leaders. So now Judas came straight to Jesus. Hello, Master, embraced him in a friendly fashion. Jesus said, my friend, go ahead and do what you've come for. And one of the men that was with Jesus pulled out a sword and slashed the ear of the high priest's servant. Put away your sword, Jesus told him. Those using the swords will get killed. Don't you realize that I could call my Father and thousands of angels would come and protect us right now? If I did, then the scriptures would not be fulfilled. But this all happened to fulfill the words of the prophets recorded in the scriptures. At this point, this is the real one I want you to catch, guys. Matthew 56 at the end, last sentence. At this point, all the disciples deserted him. Not even a few minutes of praying 3 times, sweating drops of blood in anguish, going back and forth to the disciples. Hey, you guys are awake, you're asleep, you're awake, you're asleep. You're supposed to be here with me. Now it's going down. All of them deserted him. Have you been deserted? Do you feel like you're deserted right now in your life? Because he sure was. Now in his human form, I can imagine all kinds of angry things would happen to me if someone deserted me. People that deserted me, I'd be like, hey man, I want to help you, but you left me by myself, hanging there. But in Jesus' love, he still forgave, because that's who he is. And that's who he wants us to be. He wants us to forgive those who have deserted us as well in our lives. And Jesus is telling you, do what I did. Forgive like I forgave. When I came back, as a matter of fact, let's talk about when he did come back. I can imagine Peter every night, a rooster crowed until Jesus came back. He would just bow his head and just be like, doggone it. I said I was die for him, and I denied him. Living with that. And Peter went back to what he did. Jesus was gone. Like, what do I do now? I guess I'll just go back to what I was doing. And here comes Jesus. Has fish frying by the lake. Peter's fishing, doing his thing. Same place Jesus found him in the first time and said, hey, throw your net on the other side. That's when Jesus asked him, do you love me? 3 times. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I do, Lord. Peter, do you love me? You know I do, Lord. Peter, do you love me? And in the sadness, Peter's like, yeah, you know everything. You made me. You know me. Then tend to my sheep. Do what I did. Love them. You're my mouthpiece now. I'm going to the Father. You guys are now my ambassadors. You are God's ambassadors, guys. That's all I'm trying to say. It doesn't end here after Resurrection Day and we go back to work or we go back to what we're doing tomorrow. It just begins, because you know what? You're his mouthpiece now. There are people that won't listen to me, that will only listen to you and will only know about him because of you in your life. They don't have a church to go to. They don't have places to go to. All they have is you. You're Jesus' ambassadors. Spread his gospel, because he would do it for you. I love you, and thank you for listening. God bless you. Have a super blessed day.